How are we doing, folks? Well, I am currently over at the shed with my Beetle in the background here, and I have the unenviable task of removing the dashboard in preparation for paint. The other reason I'm removing the dashboard is because I want to address many issues with the wiring harness. It is in ribbons, and I can't be having that. So I've actually bought a lot of new spade connectors, crimping tool, heat shrink sleeves, little solder sleeves are actually really good, and Tessa tape to wrap it all up in. So in order to do all of that, what I need to do is I need to remove the dashboard, and also the dashboard has some cracks on it I want to try and get repaired as well. So there's several reasons for doing this. Now, this is definitely not going to be a how-to video, and a simple reason for that is because of the fact that I haven't got a clue how to do it. So I'm going to be figuring it out as I go along. You can use this as a learning experience for how not to do it, or who knows, maybe I might actually get it right for the first time. I have my doubts. Anyway, what I was going to do was first of all remove the steering wheel and the radio, and there's a few gauges on the dashboard as well. Let's have a look. Okay, here's part of the wiring harness, which has unfortunately been a little bit mistreated, to tell you the truth. I'm going to remove that steering wheel, which is going to be great fun now without actually the wheels being on the ground. I will figure that out. Gauges here, that's a rev counter. There's an oil pressure gauge there and an oil temperature gauge hanging on the wire there. That's the oil temperature one there. Then my radio. The cutout for the radio was actually far too big in this car, so for whatever reason, so we need to figure out what's going on there. The other thing I need to do is I need to remove that fuse panel under there. So this is not the smallest job in the world, and I'm not entirely sure I'm going to be able to get it done in one day. So, as I said, first thing we need to do, get that steering wheel off. So what we do is the center cover comes off, and it's literally just clipped on. I remember because I've actually had it off before, and then you kind of give it a half a turn and away you go. And there's the horn button connection inside, which actually does work in this car, believe it or not. And there is a big nut inside there, which then needs to be removed. So we shall get a suitable size socket, and if I can find an impact gun to remove that, then so much the better, because then we're already doing well. What you do with the steering wheel when you're taking it off is undo the nut and then put it on maybe one thread before you go pulling at the steering wheel, because it's a great way of smacking yourself in the face with the steering wheel, and I don't think you'd want to do that. So once we have the steering wheel off, then we'll get into everything else. I heard a very good analogy which compared using another man's tools to wearing another man's underpants, where it just doesn't feel right, and this is definitely testament to that fact. I don't have my own tools here, so I'm kind of looking for stuff and rummaging for stuff. Anyway, it's a 24mm nut and it's off, so job's a good one. The trick with doing a job like this is to make sure you take plenty of photos. There's 3 little screws that hold the switches onto the column, so they're out now, and that just pulls out like that. Probably something broke in the process, but anyway, still something connected there, so we just have to find out what's going on there. Some wires maybe getting cut. It's a kind of a funny setup there altogether. What I'll do is I'll get the cowling off the steering column and see what that wire's connected to, and see if I can disconnect it at the other end. It's kind of a strange angle to be working at on this car, because normally you'd be kind of sitting in the driver's seat doing this, or kind of on the ground beside the car or something, but having it up on pallets like this is actually quite handy in a sense. But what we're going to do is I have all of these little switches and everything need to be removed next, and I'm going to, as much as I can, leave them on the actual harness, so if we don't disconnect anything, then I'll know exactly what they're actually for. So probably easier said than done in a sense, but we'll do our best. Things like the light switch there, for example, should just, you just kind of pinch the top and bottom. There you go. See, the light switch is out now, and it's still connected to the harness, so we know where that goes. The cigarette lighter will have to be disconnected. That switch there is actually for the intermittent wiper setup I have installed in the car, which is dead handy. Hazard light switch. The heated rear window is actually for a bilge blower fan that I installed in the heater to take air from the heat exchanger and blow it into the heater channel for when you're sitting there idling and you're not getting much air from the engine. to warm up the inside of the car. So little things like that, like the heated rear window stopped working a long time ago, but I will disconnect things like the spade connectors on this will be disconnected now, and the switches I'll pull out. That's a little yoky for the alarm if you lose the fob. So I'll try and push that out somehow. We'll figure that out in a minute. Anyway, it's all very difficult to do one-handed, so let's get that switch panel out first of all, and then we can worry about the speedometer. Okay, so progress is being made now. So I have the switch panel out in the middle. I've got the gauge out. That was great fun altogether, because it never occurred to me that the shortest thing connected to it was the speedo cable, which also had to be unscrewed from the back. And if I had done that first, it would have been an awful lot easier, but anyway, it's out now, so. Unfortunately enough, actually all the wires going to it were already labelled from a previous time I've had it out. I was having problems with the fuel gauge in this car before. So anyway, I have the screw out there. There should have been a screw up there as well, but there wasn't. So small bonus, I suppose, in a sense. There's other screws down along there, one there, and there should be one over the other side, and we'll just get them out, and then hopefully the instrument console and the dashboard should just come out, leaving wiring and a mess behind it, which we then have to address. Okay, so the best of my understanding is that all the screws are now out for the dashboard, but I need to take the door of the glove box off and then try and figure out how to get the actual glove box itself out. So that should be interesting, because I never did actually manage to figure that one out the last time I went at this. I had to try and get the glove box out for some other reason. I can't even exactly remember why. So I never did actually figure out, as I said, how the glove box liner is supposed to come out. The door is obvious, but the liner not so much. So let's try and figure that out. I know there's screws up there. There's one there and there's one there, but I undid them before and still couldn't quite get it out, so we'll see. Okay, so the door came off by just literally you just loosen them off, and then the little pivot pin moves out of the way like that. You don't even need to remove them all the way. But now I have 4 screws removed. I have two from the bottom and then 2 from the top, but it still doesn't want to go anywhere. Like, I don't, maybe unless that screw there has to come out as well. It seems strange to me, but I'll take it out nonetheless. It's long enough that it would have been going into the dashboard, so we might be onto something, folks. Let's see now. Okay, so that slides out now. I'll get rid of that for a minute. Is there a screw behind there? No, there's not. That hasn't got anything screwing it in, so I can't see how that would be it either. Maybe a little bit of two-handed gunterage might be what's required here. So I'll bring you back in a second. Okay, I was going right actually by just undoing the screws and then kind of prying at it. Those tabs there actually require a serious amount of kind of downward pressure to try and pry out from underneath the dashboard there. So yeah, it just required more force than I was initially willing to give it, but in this instance I had to. So anyway, next is to try and figure out how the boot release cable gets undone from the side of the glove box, because I haven't got a clue. Okay, as far as I'm concerned, the short answer is you don't remove the cable. Well, not from that end anyway. What I did was I actually just disconnected it from the catch underneath the bonnet. So that's that removed. So we can get that in out of the way. I'm just kind of throwing all the stuff in at the back here. That kind of petrol wasn't obviously in behind the dashboard. So get that in there. I think we could probably treat ourselves to a new cable. That's always been very stiff to open anyway, to be honest. Okay, so we have our alarm in here as well. There is an alarm in this car, so we'll look at that now in a minute. If we can see what's involved in getting this off now the rest of the way. So what we can do is we can now actually have a look around inside and see what might be actually holding it in place. seems to be actually hooked up there. So I'm thinking what I need to do is I need to push the dashboard in and unhook it from those spots and then just pull it out. I make it sound easy, don't I? Okay, so I was right. It is basically hooked in at the back there on that little spud there and the other one on the other side. So I have it more or less removed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go on the other side of the car and we shall have a look and see what needs to be removed there. So I think what we need to do now is we just need to stuff all our wires inside the dash because obviously this is going to be coming off. Let's get the keys out of the way. I don't think it's going to be going anywhere anytime soon. Okay, so it's catching on something. So what is it catching on? No one just go ripping at it and break something. I already managed to break the switch panel. It broke in two on me when I was trying to get the cigarette lighter socket disconnected, which is kind of annoying. So now I need to find a new one of them. I do also want to try and replace the dashboard because there's a bit of cracking on the top of it. So yeah, another thing on the long list, but we'll see. Well, alright then, that's the good news. That's out. So yeah, it was literally just a case of lifting it up over the steering column. It was kind of caught behind the ignition switch. So that's the good news. The bad news is, oh my god, this is going to take a bit of sorting out. So, I see what way these bloody things work now. So these are the fresh air ducts now, or the hot air ducts that join up with the heat exchanger, the heater channels down below, and I could not figure out how I was supposed to connect them up. So now I know that probably wasn't pushed through all the way. So I should be able to come out of there now. The piece of ducting is still attached to it, which is all right. So what I can do now is I can, when I'm putting that back in, I'll actually attach a piece of ducting to it. So that one there, the smaller one, is for the cold air that comes in via this here through this set of flaps, which is fair enough. And those lads there control that. So you can see one of them is moving there, and this one here distributes air between either your face or the screen. So that's fair enough. So that's actually working. But anyway, look, we're not going to worry too much about that for the moment because that's the simple stuff. The complex stuff is really the wiring, and this is the bit I want to continue on with a bit more. We'll be getting a wiring diagram at some stage. You see the way leaving the switches on makes an awful lot of sense now. Things like that there, that would go up to this fuel minus, so that's going up to the instrument or the speedometer, which has the fuel gauge in it as well, and a couple of other lights. So there's a couple of cables going up. That there was coming off. No guarantees that was ever on properly or not. So really it's just a case now of just trying to unhook everything there and just try and stretch it out a little bit and then see where everything else is going in the car. But we're definitely getting there. This is kind of the bulk of the work. If I can leave the fuse panel connected to the wiring harness, better again, because that way then I can bring the whole wiring harness and everything home with me. Okay, so there's another load of grounds there. I actually disconnected a lot of grounds from that point there. See that green? That's actually the original colour of the car. Much as I like it, I was actually tempted to go back to that colour. At one stage or another, I decided against it. So yeah, anyway, what we need to do is we need to actually disconnect all of these grounds here and label them up as being grounds. So there's our fuel negative there coming over into a little set of wires that goes over here. That there is the drain from the box where the wiper motor is, I suppose a fresh air plenum kind of thing. And it was cut in the last restoration, and for what reason I don't know. I mean, they could have just removed it, but that left me with an awful lot of hardship trying to reinstate the fresh water drain from there. I ended up actually blocking it off, and I have a fresh air fan that takes air from under the bonnet and blows it in through that vent there instead. I'll show you that in another video. But anyway, let's get them all labelled up as being grounds and disconnect them. Yeah, it looks like a bit of a mess here all right now, but it actually is coming together, believe it or not. I'm actually starting to get where I need to be. You can kind of see the reason why I'm pulling this electrical harness out of this car, because it's just stuff all over the place. Like, I mean, why would you... The screw holes in it, why would you bloody well bond it to the feckin' bulkhead? That's the type of bullshit that pisses me off now, that is. Laziness. And feckin' Sikaflex. Or Tech 7 or whatever the hell you want to call it. Anyway, I need to pry that off the bulkhead now as well. So what I'm going to do now next is I'm actually going to go under the bonnet and I'm going to start passing wiring through from there. As you can see, there's wiring harness that comes from here. That'll probably be for the likes of the lights in the front. It goes down there as well. It's going to be great fun, and I can imagine myself getting cut to ribbons down here with sharp metal and everything. Oh, Christ. Ah, yeah. And here I thought I was making progress. Shouldn't have opened my bloody mouth. Household electrical wire. Probably made sense at the time. Anyway, right, so we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, folks. I mean, like what? I think I'll be going and trying to recover wires from the likes of the wings and there's cold wires everywhere. You know, I mean, headlights and indicators have spade connectors on them. I can fix it. We have the technology. We can rebuild it. There's my there's the sounder for the alarm, and that is some nondescript spade connector, probably for the fuel gauge. I'll have to figure that out. So they go off down behind the bonnet hinge. Oh, Jesus, that was close. Yeah, need to be careful of things like that. Anyway, luckily enough it didn't take my head off. So I'll try and pass some of those wires down and get them through into the inside of the car. I'll cut off cable ties and straighten them out because they're not going to pass through the holes as they are. Not with those cable ties in place. Oh God, this is a disaster. We shall get there. We shall persevere. Okay, now that I've straightened everything out and I've kind of undone all the cable ties and any of the tester tape that's wrapped up in things, those relays are for the spotlights and fog lights that were in the front. I remember putting them in myself, and actually, to be honest with you, I used the household electrical wire to go down behind the bumper and into the lights because it's 3-core wire and I needed something that was double insulated just to protect it from the elements. It seemed to work at the time, but I certainly didn't leave it in such a mess. So what we need to do is we need to try and get all of that through the hole down there, and it's easier said than done without using the sharp edges of the metal down there to strip off the insulation of the wires, which obviously I want to try and avoid. Would you look at this? Like, that was just passing through the bulkhead by a hole that looks like I'd been knocked into it with a screwdriver. Gunterish merchant, seriously, like. I have to try and find out what the hell these are connected to now. Well, one of them is the aerial, I know that much anyway, so push the aerial back through the other way. That's that. So I'm gonna have to test the tape here anyway and see what. That test tape is that fabric tape that you get wiring harnesses wrapped in. It's good stuff if you know how to use it. It does protect the wiring harness very well. But get the aerial back through there. Aerial was never working in this car anyway. I could never get a radio station in, so good an opportunity as any to remedy that situation. Not that there's much decent stuff on Irish radio to begin with, but you know, was one or two stations you could deal with. But there we go. Pop that through there. So that frees up the space there for the other wires to come back through. So, okay, so that's that out. Probably could treat the car to a new aerial. I think I actually have a new aerial at home that I bought for the Golf and I don't actually need anymore. So start pulling these through now. That's some of that is door wiring, so central locking, and yes, the car has central locking and the speaker. Those speakers are useless. So anyway, so we can pass those wires back through there and just pull them through here. It begs the question why I'm bothering pulling them through. In fairness, I'm going to have to cut them one way or another. But I'm leaving fragments of wire all over the inside of the car, so you can see now where I'm kind of working. That's the bonnet hinge there. The possibility of cutting myself to ribbons is quite high. Okay, so they're from the speaker wires. Okay. Slow, meticulous old process. Painstaking, I believe, is the term that would be appropriate in this instance. So, to find out what that wire there does, I'd say that's probably something to do with the alarm. It looks like a piece of 2 core mains. Actually, you know what, it's probably for the central locking actuator. Well, I'll persevere anyway. I was really hoping that the wiring harness was going to be better than I thought, but I was very, very wrong in that respect. It is far worse than I thought. It's going to take a serious amount of effort to get it right. I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that I'm going to be getting this car back on a trailer at this stage, so I haven't even gotten the chance to collect the engine yet or anything. So, I mean, I did things like leaving the fuse panel connected. I'll be going through all that anyway. I'm going to be disconnecting it at some stage, but for the moment, at least it's out of the car. The wiring harness, that part of the wiring harness is out of the car. But that's before I even get near the wiring down at the back of the car for the engine and the rear lights and all that kind of thing. So let's have a look and see what's involved in that. I don't think it's going to take me much to remove it, in fairness. It goes up to the old diagnostic plug, which I always think is a little bit funny on these. I saw a picture there recently of somebody who'd plugged a typewriter in as a joke. You get that screw out, and then that takes this connection here off, and then that should leave me with literally the entire wiring harness out of the car. And yeah, I can fix it on my garage floor at home. Where are the battery connections even? Right, okay. Anyway, let's get that disconnected. There are the wires for the gauges going through that hole into... Oh, no. Oblivion. Marvellous. Just bloody marvellous. Okay, well I have to take all that stuff out now. Okay, so more cut wires going up in behind this insulation here. And pull this carpet out. Take it down now in a second when I have 2 hands free and try and pull them through. I mean, the fact that they're cut anyway, I think I'm going to be just making a new harness for the engine bay. It's the stuff of nightmares, lads, it really is. I'm not joking now, look at this. Like, it was all those wires were going underneath all that insulation. I did my best to try and pull it up, but in the end I had to cut the wires on the other end. I'm remaking connections all over the place. I don't even know where the hell the harness for the engine actually is. Alright, anyway, dashboard is out. The harness is out. Most of the interior is out, to be honest with you, at this stage. I mean, it's just windows and stuff like that now. And it's just now a case of trying to get it finished. Because the more I see, the more difficult I know it's going to get. So we'll just have to persevere. This is a real labour of love, folks, I can assure you. Just goes to show, this is the reason why I'll be doing most of the work on the MG myself. Yeah. Anyway, look at let's leave it there. I'm tired and fed up, to be honest with you, and I'm gonna get home, have a bit of dinner, and relax, put the feet up, and maybe edit this video together and get it uploaded. So anyway, look, thanks for watching, and hit that subscribe button. I'd really appreciate your support at this time, folks. Talk to you soon.